Hey everyone, so in today's video, I got this new concealer from Makeup Forever. I was actually super excited to try it, so I wanted to get on here, let you guys know my thoughts so far. I've only been using this for a little bit now. It is the Ultra HD Light Capturing Self-Setting Concealer, and I was interested in the self-setting aspect of the concealer because I don't like to set my concealer. That is something I know plenty of you love to do. I have dry skin, and when I can get away with it, I like to use as little powder as possible. And sometimes I do feel like setting my concealer makes the situation a lot drier. With my skin type, that's definitely something I'm trying to avoid. So if this review ends up being helpful, I would love if you would subscribe and like the video. I would love to see you back in some of my videos upcoming for 2019. So I got mine in the shade 11, which is absolutely not my color, and I'm wearing it today. I can definitely tell that it's way too light on me, and I was actually surprised that this was going to be super light. Even on my hand, you can see how very much white that is. It's very, very light on me, but good news, if you're super pale, there are options for you. So this concealer is pretty interesting to me. I feel like I can't commit to a certain feeling about it, and it's for a couple of different reasons. We'll get into that. But first of all, the product itself is very thin. It's thin, but it has a creaminess to it. So it's not thin like the Naked Skin Concealer, which a lot of people love that, but I find it too drying because it is too thin and it kind of sets down a little bit drier, at least for my skin. And I feel like this marries a thin formula and a creamy product very well. It's definitely lightweight, which is obviously ideal for under the eyes, but it's not too lightweight and too fluid that it ends up drying under the eyes and exaggerating anything you don't want it to. So as for how it actually looks under my eyes personally, I like the way it looks, but there are some things I would change. It's nice, there's no doubt about that, and I definitely can see the care that they put into the formula. It isn't overly drying, which I appreciate, and I think if you're looking for an everyday natural concealer, you will really enjoy this. Speaking of natural concealer, this is definitely a pretty light coverage. You can build it up, but I'm finding that I'm looking for a little bit more coverage with this, and I'm really surprised by that, because if it was like a perfect pair to the Ultra HD foundation from Makeup Forever, that to me is like a medium coverage, light to medium. This to me is a light coverage concealer, and I'll get into the demo so you can kind of see. I used a decent amount of product. I wouldn't say I went overboard with it though, and it blends out really well like I was mentioning before. Definitely tell the color is completely wrong. So because this color is not completely right on me, I am taking that into consideration with my review of this and the way I look at it right now. A good color match for concealer can really drastically change how you're going to like it. So the color match is really off, and I think that's part of the reason why I feel like my eyes still look a little bit sunken when I have this concealer on. You can even see in here that it just looks a little bit sunken. The finish of this concealer doesn't really read to me as like a self-setting concealer because it still remains pretty dewy. I was expecting it to kind of go down to like a satin matte. Under my eyes, I would say they look pretty dewy, and I have powder under them. I actually used my Wowder from Glossier, not only to set the makeup because I felt like it was a little bit too dewy, but also to kind of fix the shade a little bit. Also, something funny about this is that under this eye, I feel like it looks a lot less textured than this eye. On this eye specifically, and I do feel like this eye is a little bit drier right now for some reason. I do think that if you build it up too much, it can start to look a little bit dry. So under here, I think it looks nice. You can still see some darkness in here, and that's due to the coverage, but it doesn't look dry. Over here, I'm not sure if you can see that, but over here, I'm seeing a little bit more texture. My eyelids are looking a little bit more textured. This texture versus like very little texture in here. It basically lets me know that if my skin was a little bit drier right now, it would kind of cling on to some dry patches. So that is something to keep in mind. I think this would be a great layering concealer because I like how dewy it is, but I do wish there was a little bit more coverage in the product, to be honest. If you're looking for a dewier light coverage concealer, something that just looks nice on the skin and very natural, I think this is a great option. I actually think that if you wanted to wear something like the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter all over the face and then spot concealed and went under the eyes with something like this, it would be like a match made in heaven. I think this actually kind of reminds me of that for some reason. Like the formula, the texture of it reminds me of that product a lot, but you know, this has coverage obviously. Because this is a light capturing concealer, I almost want to view this more as like a retoucher, like the Touche Eclat from YSL, or you know, there's a lot of different retouchers out on the market. If I view this more as a retoucher versus a concealer, it's the best retoucher I've tried. So yeah, I hope that this review was helpful. If it was helpful, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. That always really helps me out. And I hope I see you in some of my upcoming videos because obviously I'd love to have you, and I will hopefully just see you then.